Yes, hello and welcome into another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. I am sitting here in the studio with Anthony, and it's a bit gloomy outside today.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. Almost looks like there might be some snow up in the mountains.
Yeah, so much for the sunshine. Oh, we don't live in Florida, never mind. I was going to say the Sunshine State, but that's not true. Well, we are sitting in a balmy studio. It's a little chilly in here. Winter is slowly coming upon us, and week 11 is as well.
Yes, very true. Some decent matchups as well as some pretty bad ones, in my mind.
Yeah, I think both in the college and professional ranks, we're starting to obviously see the separation. A lot of teams have just kind of given up at this point, just playing for next year, playing not to get hurt. And in college, they're just playing to protect their draft status.
Yeah.
At this point, there is still some interesting football left to be played in both associations, but let's start with the college ranks. Not really anything as exciting as last week on the slate. This week, Wisconsin's got a home game against Michigan. That's the only top 25 matchup that I see that really has any bearing on anything this in college football. But let's look at last week. We talked about it a little bit on Monday. We talked about some of the teams that have a sneaky shot at getting into the playoffs because the top four teams right now all seem to kind of have a fatal flaw. You know, you have Alabama, who has some serious injuries mounting on defense. I mean, you know it, I know it, you talk to anybody. We're in a business where we work where, sports is talked about all the time.
Absolutely.
And, everybody just assumes Alabama keeps on rolling, roll tide. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case right now.
No, I see them being more impacted by their injuries come towards that final push for the playoffs, if not in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were finally tested by a team, who had a backbone to stand up to them. And Dan Mullen's always played Nick Saban pretty hard. Alabama got a little exposed. The fact that they are losing players, and the guys that they have to turn up right now just aren't either ready or aren't as good as the starters. I mean, they lost their three starting linebackers last year, replaced them this year. Those three are down. So it's almost seeming like a David versus Goliath, where Goliath is starting to show signs of weakness, and I think could be Alabama's fatal flaw. The other fatal flaw is hopefully that the players aren't drinking the Kool-Aid, because the fans are definitely doing that.
Absolutely. Even with the handicappers, in my mind, is they're a little too still heavy favorite on Alabama, in my mind, when it comes to the spreads of the games. Yeah,
the books got a hard time putting out lines for Bama, especially when they are hurt. However, this week they get a team like Mercer, so they're basically just having a Saturday scrimmage, in the sense of the word, getting players healthy. So Saban does this. He schedules this game. It seems Western Carolina, I remember in the past, Mercer before. He seems to put this game at the appropriate time of the year. A lot of guys schedule their non-conference games the first 4 or 5 games of the year, or maybe your rivalry games in non-conference, a la Florida State, stuff like that. But he seems to take that non-conference game, like Mercer, like Western Carolina, like, the School for the Deaf and Blind Chicks, shit like that, and put it at, right around the middle of the SEC schedule to kind of break up the craziness that is the SEC. And he seems to get away with it because no one really calls him out on it. So I think it's just great scheduling by Saban to put a team like this in here, give them their payday, and kind of take a second bye week in the season.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. It's kind of like a recovery game for them. All the people that are banged up will either be limited in the game as well as in practice, and it's just a chance for them to maybe add a little depth in the lineup, if not have a few players get recovery time.
Yeah, I mean, I can't expect to see the starters, whoever does end up being the starters, I can't expect to see the starters in there for too long. And that's always an issue for the books and for handicappers, is because, okay, I don't have the line in front of me, but I can imagine it's in the 40s or 50s.
Yeah, let me look it up right now.
That's a tough cover because, they could get up 35-0 and then just take everybody out. And, there's just no emphasis on scoring at that point. It's a tough line for both books and for handicappers to sit there and try to figure out. I'd be shocked if there was even a line on this game, to be honest with you. But Clemson moved up to number 2 in the polls as we looked, as our show did on Monday. We didn't have the official poll results. The CFP playoff rankings was Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Miami 3, and Oklahoma 4. So Clemson jumps 2 spots up to number 2. Again, you and I both believe that Clemson's getting a little bit of love based on last year's success. They also have one of those games that I just spoke about, a Saban-esque style game in Citadel, which obviously I don't even know where the Citadel is. I have only heard of it because at Florida State we went to a game when they played the Citadel and Florida State destroyed them. I still don't know where it is, though.
Beats me. I'm not 100% sure either.
So Bama and Clemson are going to remain atop the playoff. They're not going to do anything to hurt themselves this week. If they've got to leave the starters in and play, God forbid, Mercer or Citadel gives them a challenge, they're going to do just that. They don't need to run up the score. They don't need to electrify the crowd. They don't need to impress the committee. They're 1-2 come next Tuesday. That's just guaranteed, barring some catastrophic event. But we get a couple of interesting games between the 3 and the 4 seeds. Virginia's always been kind of a weird team. Miami's coming off a huge win that has basically catapulted them from 8-3, given them a spot in the playoff picture right now. And knowing Miami football, I mean, Mark Richt's going to do his best to basically keep these guys level-headed, but you know those guys are walking around with a little sense of swag this week.
Absolutely. Yeah, they got their heads high and coming off that huge win against Notre Dame. I mean, do you think it will affect their gameplay, or do you think they'll come out and almost do the same to Virginia?
Well, my thought on it, if I'm looking at it, and this is one of my to-the-window picks this week, is actually taking Virginia plus 10 first half. I think there's a chance that team, you know, as much as Mark Richt can, you know, coach them up, they're still 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. They've got the swagger. They've got the turnover chain, blah, 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 this and that. I like Virginia first half to keep it close. I think Miami will still end up winning the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I like Virginia to come out, keep it close first half. I think I'm going to book Virginia first half this week.
Sounds like a reasonable pick in my mind.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on Miami? I mean, obviously, like you said, they've got to be walking around campus with just their heads. I don't know how they get them through the classroom doors.
Yeah, they're so massively huge after that.
And they deserve it, and they absolutely deserve it. They spanked Notre Dame at home in a game that they needed to show a statement, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
So I don't blame them for having that, but it just, you know, you got to carry it over week to week, and sometimes that doesn't happen for 18, 19-year-old kids.
This week's a new week, and I see them winning the game outright. I'm not sure if they'll cover for the full game. I'm guessing like a 2.5 score game, like a 17-point difference.
Yeah. See, I can't predict the final score. I can't really think of what I would go leaning on a side, but I just feel like they may come out a little sluggish, and I believe the last I saw, William Hill had them at 10.5 actually for the first half for Virginia. So that's my theory on my Miami. Oklahoma, the number 4 team in the playoff, is traveling to Kansas, which is basically the Big 12 doormat. I don't see anything keeping Baker Mayfield from his 2 goals this year, which is the Heisman Trophy and a national championship appearance and win. I'm not touching 37 points, but I don't see any shakeup in the playoffs this week. I think 1 through 4 all take it down.
Even see Wisconsin proving themselves against Michigan. Michigan's kind of a shaky team this year, in my mind.
Yeah, see, now that's where I think it gets interesting to me. And I know that, like I said, 1 through 4, that's what everybody's focused on. But, you know, it's the outside looking in where I see Wisconsin. They have the, I guess for lack of a better word, quote unquote, the toughest matchup this week. You know, home against Michigan. Michigan doesn't really have anything to play for at this point anymore, unless they beat Wisconsin, because I believe they can get into the Big Ten title game on the East. Or the leaders. What are they, leaders or legends? I don't know how.
Legends.
Legends? Okay. Yeah. So if they beat Wisconsin and they beat Ohio State, I believe they can get in. I'll have to have the crack research team check that for me. Yeah, I think Wisconsin's got the toughest game this week in the sense of they have the most to prove at this point, because I think that the committee has been kind of on the fence with them, saying, you know, of all the 8 teams here, they really haven't played anybody. They haven't done anything. I mean, the win in Iowa is only significant because of the fact that they beat Ohio State. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think beating Michigan while they're sitting at 24 could give them a little bit of a boost confidence, but they're going to sit outside. I think they're going to sit outside the playoff until they play that Big Ten title game.
I could see that as well, unless if there's a stir up before the championship.
Well, sure, yeah. If a team goes down, if a team goes down, in the next couple of weeks, like Alabama comes out and Wisconsin stays hot. If Alabama loses to Auburn, then that changes things. But I mean, until if it remains status quo with these 4 teams at the top still winning, I believe that can't really change.
Yeah, they'll be on the outside looking in. So looking at another top 10 matchup this week, we've got Auburn at home, kind of like on a bye schedule.
Yeah, they got a bye. I mean, they got, for all intents and purposes, a bye. I still think they need to do some impressing of the committee, but their season rests on the Iron Bowl and the SEC Championship should they get there. So I think it's just a maintenance game. Stay healthy, run clean plays, get out of there with a win. I don't see them covering. I see them just making every attempt to stay healthy. So I'm leaning Louisiana Monroe with the 38 points, but I don't know if I'm officially taking that to the window.
No.
Like I feel like Virginia. I think Gus Malzahn has a bit of a better grasp of his team, and I think that Auburn has a lot more to prove right now than Miami does. Miami made their case.
Yeah.
So I think Auburn's going to be a maintenance game. Get out of there, win by 3-4 touchdowns. Just get ready for the Iron Bowl.
Yeah, stay healthy, do well, don't do stupid stuff.
Yeah, now we were talking about Ohio State and the situation that they're in with the 2 losses. They still have the Big Ten title championship to play for should they beat Illinois and Michigan. Like we said, if Michigan beats Ohio State, I believe Michigan will play for the title. Or would it be Penn State?
It also depends what happens this week. If Michigan
there's
loses
some
to
situations.
Wisconsin,
If Michigan loses to Wisconsin, I think they're all but done. But if Michigan can shake up things, I think Michigan's the only thing with real shake-up power this week.
Yeah.
But Auburn, still has a chance to get in the playoff. They control their own destiny in a sense. They go to the Iron Bowl and then they go to the SEC Championship, where they'll face UGA, who also, I believe, has the power to control their own destiny. Because if Alabama beats Auburn and plays UGA in the Sugar Bowl, not the Sugar Bowl, the SEC Championship, then they beat Alabama, I got to imagine a 1-loss SEC Championship is going in.
Absolutely.
I feel like Kirby Smart can't be devastated by the fact that they got destroyed. But even if they got beat by 100 or got beat by 1, I think them getting in with 1 loss, them only having 1 loss gets them in if they win the SEC title. So it's not the worst loss in the world. It's not. It's even the timing of the loss isn't that bad.
No,
because I think if they lost by 100, came back, beat Bama when Bama's number 1, I still think the 1-loss SEC champion is in.
This year I don't see them not getting in with a 1-loss SEC championship.
So if I had to look at it, I think if Auburn, combination of Auburn and Ohio State or UGA and Ohio State won out the rest of their games, I could see both or at least one getting into the playoff.
I could see it as well.
So I think there's a lot of football left to be played. I don't know if it's going to come down to the wire. This week will tell really very little because I don't think there's going to be anything happening. I don't think Michigan's strong enough to beat Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's just going to ground and pound them right into the turf.
Michigan's got a lot of mental problems to me, like trying to figure out who they are. And
I like the over in that game. 39.5. It just seems like a weird line to me.
Was that for the half or for the game?
That's for the game.
39.5. That does seem pretty low.
Yeah, so I don't know. It seems like it would be a situation where Wisconsin wins 35-0, but I feel like Michigan can get
a touchdown or 2.
I feel like Michigan can get 2 touchdowns, and lose 28-14, something like that. I feel like that's a fair assessment of the case, but who knows? I could be wrong.
Yeah, that seems like a very low college line.
Yeah, so there's obviously there's a lot of other ranked teams in play. Nothing really with playoff implications. But, anything you like this weekend that you're going to take to the window?
Not in the college terms this week. Sparty cost me too much last week, and just taking it light this week. I might do like a little parlay with quite a few favorites in my mind, like Ohio State, Notre Dame, stuff like that. Might even do like a little teaser.
I kind of like Georgia to come back with just a fire up their ass, lay in 3 touchdowns against Kentucky. It was, okay to start the season. They're not very good at this point, but I think Georgia's going to light a fire because I think they have to have an impressive win now on top of winning the SEC. But, I could be crazy. They could win. I guess they really don't have to. They could win by 1. Who knows what the committee's thinking. That's always the big thing is, what you think and what they think, could be 2 completely different things. Like, I think Clemson shouldn't be in the top, I shouldn't be in the top 4, but, I think losing to Syracuse is a lot more heinous than even Auburn losing their 2 games to Clemson. I guess, that's why Clemson's ahead, but, losing to Clemson, who you think is so good, and then losing to LSU, who is, had a weird fluky comeback.
Yeah.
UGA should maybe still be in the top 4. They got crushed, but they got crushed by a team you have in the top 6. Syracuse just has that ugly, Clemson just has that ugly loss to Syracuse.
Yeah.
It just seems weird to me.
What do you think about your team, undefeated UCF?
I don't like laying 2 touchdowns on the road. I think there's a game plan. There's a formula for them to be stopped. I think it's been shown. Not against Connecticut, but against SMU and against Navy the last 2 weeks before the Connecticut game. I thought there was a game plan that showed itself for them to be stopped. And Temple has been a thorn in the side of UCF for the last few years, post Blake Bortles era. But I don't think I can touch that game. If I had to lean, I'd lean Temple. But I can't imagine going to the window and betting against the team I'm rooting for.
Oh, I can absolutely agree. It's like a double whammy if you take UCF and they don't cover or they lose outright.
Well, yeah. It's like, okay, so now you're sitting here I take Temple plus 14 or whatever it ends up falling to. And I'm sitting here, Temple's down 21 points with 7 minutes left, and here I am rooting for Temple to score a touchdown and get close to the game. And then when they finally get close, they may get too close, and now I'm like, all right, UCF, get your asses back in gear.
Yeah.
I don't like doing that. I don't touch Patriots games. I don't touch UCF games. I don't touch Florida State games. I generally already have enough vested interest in a game that I can't touch it unless the line just seems to jump at me.
Yeah.
Like last week, I took Connecticut. They just seemed at home. Connecticut's offensive points per game, they average pretty high in points per game. I thought they could stay within 40 points. And I was correct.
Which they did, yeah.
Yeah, because the fact of the matter is having to cover 40 points in football is tough.
It is.
Especially this late in the season. To cover 40 is not easy.
Yeah, very true. With all that information out on the table of your system, who's starting, how they're performing, who needs to perform well with a blowout winner or not. Still 40 is pretty impressive.
I think the playoff committee's shown that UCF, no matter what they do running the table, they're not sniffing the playoff.
No.
So Scott Frost's plan is to get ahead, get a lead, and get the guys out. Covering is kind of hard for me to sit there and try to look at for them because a 28-point win when you're undefeated is just the same as a 45-point win.
Yeah.
When you have no shot at making the playoff, which I think is they're the case this year for expanding to 8. We talked about that last segment. If you want to check out the podcast, it is episode 2. We talked about expanding the teams to 8, expanding the playoff to 8 teams. We may talk about that again because that topic really never seems to get old because every year we do have this situation where it does seem like so many teams are deserving of a shot at a national title, including what they would call mid-major or group of 5 teams.
Talking about expanding playoffs, would you even consider it a 16 playoff, or you rather just keep it at 8?
Well, the situation with a 16 playoff is you have to give the top 2 a bye.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's necessarily fair, giving someone a bye, because the playoff seedings aren't based on record.
Very true.
And they're not always playing common opponents.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I like necessarily a bye because, like you said, you and I don't agree that Clemson should be number 2.
Absolutely agree.
So because some committee believes that they should get a bye, they get a bye. I don't think that's very fair. That's not fair to the number 3 team who may, on paper or statistically or based on strength of schedule, may be a better team.
Very
so
true.
I think you got to go to 8 to make everyone play.
No, I make 5 Power 5 conferences get in, and
The Power 5, a
Yeah.
group of 5, 1 team, and then your 2 at-large bases. If you can't make the
Yeah.
top 8, then I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If you can't make the top 8, then we're not going. I don't think we should go any farther. The way they could outline it is, the top 4 teams get a home game against the bottom 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to your 14 playoff with your 2 New Year's Day
Neutral
bowl
sites.
games, and then your final, national title game. So that's my thought. What I would say fix to the playoff system, but I don't know if it's, even with 4 teams, I don't think it's necessarily broken at this point. I think it's just the want and the need for fans to just have more and more action. And when their team's left on the outside, then of course the playoff committee sucks,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So, but this weekend will kind of be mellow for college football. But I'll still tune in, have a couple of cold beverages, and place a little action on the game. Nothing too crazy. I like a couple of games, but nothing out of the ordinary. I'm going to save all my torching money for the NFL this week.
Yeah, same here.
So speaking of the NFL, let's move on to Week 11 in the NFL, and it starts tonight with Tennessee at Pittsburgh. Tennessee coming off a fun and exciting win against Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh coming off a not so fun and scary win against the Indianapolis Colts, where they trailed virtually the whole game. I think it's a weird situation, these Thursday night games, but I mean, you really don't have a lot of issues, I guess you could say. I mean, Marcus Mariota did practice. Ben Roethlisberger is always on the injury list, so I assume he's going to suit up. Joe Hayden probably not going to play in this game. Actually, he's been ruled and confirmed as out. A couple of defensive guys, Harrison and Mitchell, are questionable, but I got to lean at the fact that the Pittsburgh got a kick in the ass last Sunday and realized that they can't keep continuing to play down to inferior competition. So I'm going to lean with the Steelers, and I'm going to give the touchdown in this one.
Are you? I'm leaning towards the other way. I think the Steelers can kind of be exposed pretty quickly in a game. That's the reason why they were down to the Colts.
See, I don't disagree with your logic if this was a Sunday game. I just think coming off that come from behind victory against Cincinnati, you usually take Mondays off. Now you have Tuesday practice, Wednesday you're either practicing or traveling. So you've got all of that in such a short time frame to then come out and play a team that's 7-2. I just don't know if that's enough with Marcus Mariota. He did get hurt in the last game, even though he'll probably suit up. He's listed as probable. He had full participation yesterday. I just don't like to go to the window with my money on away teams in these Thursday night football games. So That's where I lean. Pittsburgh minus the 7. I'll give the touchdown. I'm not taking this one to the window, though.
Yeah, I actually like the under in this game. The line I see is 44 right now.
Yeah, I could see a 21-17 kind of game here, 24-20, somewhere around that total. So we have Detroit and we have Chicago. Detroit coming off a fun game against the Cleveland Browns there.
Yep, rematch of the 1957 championship game.
What, the Lions and the Browns?
Yeah.
I'm glad you know that. Was that your last championship and your only championship?
One of a few.
Or no, did Cleveland win, right?
No, the Lions.
The Lions won?
Blew them out.
Well, congrats, man. High five. Yeah. Good job. Way to celebrate that. You guys should pop champagne and toast to that.
60 years ago. Yeah. 60-year anniversary.
Congratulations, man. We got Detroit laying just under a field goal at 2.5 going on the road to Chicago. And Chicago, obviously, we looked at last week. What were we thinking, man? We sat there and said, I can't feel confident in a team this terrible laying 5 points, and we still took them.
Yeah.
I think Detroit's got to get going. They got to win. They've got to win, and they've got to win as much as Minnesota's winning right now.
Yeah.
And even more. So my first instinct is to take Matt Stafford in this point in a must-win situation. And I know that sounds crazy to think a must-win, but it is a must-win.
Oh, absolutely.
They've got to stay. They're 2 games behind Minnesota. They've got to keep pace. They can't afford to lose a game at Chicago and then have Minnesota beat the Rams. They can't afford to go 3 games back. They might as well start looking wild card. I think they'll win and cover. I'm looking at somewhere in the 24-10 range.
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards 10-point victory, a 27-17 kind of game.
Yeah, so it's going to be cold up there, but I think Matt Stafford can handle it. He'll be fine. Everybody's looks like there's not a lot of injuries on either side that are really.
Just Washington didn't participate in practice. It's kind of questionable. Zeke Alonso, same situation. Didn't play last week, but I see him maybe suiting up for this game, be limited in the game practice.
Yeah, so you got the Jaguars and the Browns. Oof, I don't know if I can tune into this one. I might just bet this game just so I have to tune into it. I like the Blake Bortles experience. He made it fun last week.
Yeah.
He threw a couple of picks. His team got the ball back. He went down. He drove. He got the game win. He's always an interesting character to watch, but I root for him. If you're out there, Blake, give him hell in Cleveland this week. But Jacksonville's laying 9. I'm gonna give the 9 and take Jacksonville on the road. I just don't think that Cleveland has just any interest in even keeping games close at this point.
Yeah.
I think they're just so destined to get that number 1 pick. So.
No, I am leaning towards the -9 as well. In that situation, I think.
What's the total on that game?
37.5.
37.5. Jeez, I can see. I guess I can see a 27-10, 24-10 kind of game.
Yeah, I'm not gonna touch the total, but I like Jacksonville in the spot.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the window with Jacksonville here and give the 9. I think they got a wake up call. Everybody's Fournette's limited in practice, but he'll suit up as long as he doesn't break any rules. Blake Bortles played. The question mark will be Marquise Lee and Allen Hurns. I got to check out the status of those two. If they're in, I'll take the 9. If they're out, I'll probably lay off this game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thought process on those 2 teams. I think Jacksonville has the defense to hold Cleveland to nothing.
Yeah.
So if they can get 10 points, I'm happy. So.
Yeah.
Ravens at Packers. The Ravens are giving a point in Lambeau Field.
Yeah, and of course the Packers coming off that kind of impressive victory over the Bears last week.
There's no impressive victories over the Browns.
Yeah.
The Packers, they beat the Bears. I guess Hundley's starting to get a little bit more comfortable with his role. The Ravens just are a team you just can't touch. They've beaten teams 40-0 and they've lost to dumpster fires. And they're on the road as a favorite, giving up a point. This seems like a game to me when I look at the house and try to figure out what's the fishiness on this line. It seems to me that the Ravens are going to show up this week, and they're just daring you to take the Packers in Lambeau.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards the way I'm guessing it's going to be close game, like within a field goal, maybe a touchdown. But I'm leaning more towards the Ravens. And I'm going to say it's going to be a little higher scoring than people think. The Lions at 38 for the total. I like the over in that situation.
Yeah, a lot of low over-unders this week. 38, I think they're still, a lot of people still think about the Ravens defense and think that it's still, what it is. I could see 24-21 in this spot, yeah. So I'm not going to the window with either one, but if I had to, I'd take the Ravens and I would take the over in that spot.
Yeah.
But I like the Ravens in that spot. So Cardinals at Texans. Boy, this is a preseason or in the beginning of the season, a lot of expectations for both these teams. But now we sit here in week 11 and we wonder, do they really even have to play the game at all? It's a pick'em. It's a pick'em in Houston. So I lean to you for guidance on what to do in the spot.
I'm leaning towards not betting this game, but if I had to choose one in a do or die situation, I'd probably take the Arizona Cardinals. My opinion is based on their run game and all that. They'll open up their pass game a little. Not a big fan of touching this game, but I like that as well as the over in this situation. I think it'll be a little harder scoring game. Total is 40.5. I have right here.
Yeah, I mean, if you subscribe to the Adrian Peterson mantra this season, it's been good game, bad game, good game, bad game. So should be good game, right?
It should. If you have him on fantasy, I would not put him on the bench this week.
I put him in my flex this week based on I'm subscribing to the AP every other week theory. It was either between him and Alvin Kamara, which was tough, but I think I'm going to go Peterson. I think we'll talk about the New Orleans game later, but I sit on the other side. I think Houston will win this game just because it's at home. For nothing more than that, I don't have any rhyme, reason, or variance situation. I mean, a pick 'em at home means you're actually 3 points worse than the other team. I mean, Drew Stanton and Tom Savage, I guess. Take your pick, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. So if you're gun to my head, I'm taking Houston, and I'm going to take the under in that game.
The under 40.5.
I think it's like 17-13 or something like that. You know, I got no interest. I didn't study that game at all. I have no interest in that.
Yeah.
It'll probably be the least bet game, but who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like it's not going to have a huge handle at the window, but we'll never know. The Rams at Vikings, I think, is the game of the week that's being played on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the Monday night game's huge, but the game of the week on Sunday is Rams at Vikings. There is a lot of interest in this. The Rams going on a road, playing another team. A lot of people don't still believe in the Rams, even though they're 6-2, 7-2.
7-2, yeah.
There's still that situation where people believe they're just not there yet. Them, Jacksonville, kind of the teams like that. There's a lot of interesting. A lot of their defense is banged up right now. Didn't participate in practice this week. Obviously, it's only Thursday, so Friday's going to be the big telltale.
Yeah.
Their line's banged up. Saffold and Whitworth are right now hurt. Who knows if they'll play? They're scheduled. They're on track to play, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And Minnesota looks healthy. I mean, Minnesota doesn't have really any major glaring injuries. I mean, they've played well, and they're at home, and they're given a point. So it's essentially it's a pick 'em.
Yeah.
But Vegas is telling me that LA is a better team. So to me, it seems like it could be a weird game.
In my mind, it's going to be a weird game, but I like the Vikings in this situation.
Yeah, I think I would lean. I'm not going to bet this game, but I think I'd lean Vikings in this spot just because I think they're playing better ball, and I think they're on the injury front there. If these guys don't play, a lot of their starters are not practicing this week, so let's hope.
Yeah, they look like they're a better situation injury-wise.
Yeah, I want to say for storyline purposes, this is the week where Case Keenum has a bad game. You know what I mean? It just seems to set up that way. You know, Zimmer put his confidence in Case Keenum, and Case Keenum and just shits the bed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I could see that occurring.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it's due to happen, whether it happens this week or further down the road.
I mean, let's not forget, Case Keenum is Case Keenum. There's a reason he hasn't been a starter for the first, 6-7 years of his career.
Yeah.
So I want to say I would lay Minnesota with the 1. I don't want to touch this game for those storyline reasons. I feel like he won't get yanked this game, but if he has a bad game, you'll start having the doubt creep in. So I'm not touching this game. I don't know what the total is, but it's
total is 45.5. One of the higher ones this week.
45.5. I would lean towards the over on that one. So, like I said, I'm not touching it, but I'll take Minnesota in the over.
Yeah, I would lean towards the same way.
So here's an interesting game because there's a team that just can't be stopped, and for whatever reason, I can't seem to not fade them. I feel like there's got to be a wall here, and it just hasn't been for 7 weeks. And that's the Saints and the Redskins. When am I going to learn my lesson? I think the minute I learn my lesson is when I actually get this right. I feel like I've been fading the Saints for 4 weeks now. And I'm going to do it again. Washington's getting 9 on the road. They got beat pretty bad in their own home, and I think Kirk Cousins has a little bit to play for. I think they don't win this game, but I think Washington keeps it within a field goal.
Based on the injury report right now, a few people didn't participate in practice, like Williams or Reed.
Yeah, but Reed hasn't participated in the season yet, so I mean,
yeah. a lot of limited players in practice, but I think most of them will play.
The ones that make me feel a little worried is like Crowder, who did not participate, but Breland participated. That's big for him in the defensive side because slowing down Drew Brees is going to be the key to the game. So if they can get Breland to play, situations like that, they don't really have a lot of other significant injuries. Crowder will be necessary. Crowder and Doxson will be necessary to this game. So hopefully Crowder can suit up. Jordan Reed's been non-existent all year. So.
In this kind of game, I like the Saints to cover. I would probably even drop it down to 10 if I had the opportunity to sell a point, get to even money or something. And I think the Saints D is playing very impressive, as well as creating some havoc and turnovers.
All right, well, we sit on opposite sides of that one. I'm going to go to the window with Washington here and take the 9 points. I'll take it. So that'll be one where we differ. We'll look at that one on Monday. That's it.
Yeah, and the total for this game is the highest of the week. We got 51.
I'll take the under.
I lean towards the under. I'm guessing more like a 30-17 kind of game.
Yeah, I think it's 24-21. I think it's 24-21. Saints kick a field goal to win at the end of regulation or in overtime. So I'll take the Washington money. I'll take the Washington points with my money, so I'll go to the window with that one. We have the Chiefs and the Giants next. This is a weird one because this is the only double-digit spread of the weekend. And I never feel good about double-digit spreads, even with a team this good and a team this bad. The Chiefs haven't been playing well lately, but they're still a good squad. But, laying, over 10 points to me, I don't know if I can really feel comfortable taking the points, or giving the points on the road. So I'm not going to touch this one. I'm going to look at leaning towards the Chiefs 11.5, but it's free money at that point. I'm not touching it.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the same. I'd probably take like the Chiefs first half or something, -5.5. I like that. I think the Chiefs are going to come out strong, maybe coast a little and give up some late points where they might not cover at the end.
Yeah, no real big injuries. Tamba Hali has not practiced, but he hasn't been practicing for a long time. I think it's irrelevant to look at the Giants' injury report because their whole team, even the ones that play, look like they're injured. But Eli, this is a kind of an interesting situation. Eli obviously has his start streak. He goes in there and just yucks it up again. You're Ben McAdoo. You're pretty much on your way out of the door here. Do you just stick with him the rest of the way, or do you kind of maybe see what your other option is with Geno Smith?
If I'm McAdoo, I'd probably look towards Geno Smith and put him in a game, maybe.
Hope he wins you the last 5 and keep your job?
No, not necessarily that. Just for the future of the team, whether he's there or not. Maybe add a little experience for Geno.
Yeah, I mean, you got to coach like you're not getting fired, right? I mean, you got to coach like you're going to be there.
Yeah, even if he gets fired, it will look on a resume to another team, maybe.
At least that he tried.
Yeah.
But does the Giants front office say, look, we've got a consecutive start streak intact? Does that matter at all? I mean, he's a Manning too,
I think in mind it's up to Eli. If they bring an option to the table to him, I think it's his final decision whether he wants to start or not.
You think so? I don't know. I feel like it's a situation where Ben McAdoo has to believe that his playoff appearance last year is good enough to keep him. So he's going to see what he has in Geno to start. Because he just said, last week or 2 weeks ago, he's going to start scouting the college quarterbacks. So he's clearly looking at a quarterback for next year.
Yeah.
Out of the college ranks. So I think he's got to go with Geno and assume that Eli's days in New York are over, which I never thought I'd say those words.
Yeah, especially this soon. I mean, was he only 38?
What is he only 38?
Yeah,
what do you think happened to his brother? What is he only 38? Yeah, he got to go sometime, dude.
Yeah.
At some point, you just...
Yeah, you can't be like Tom Brady and play until you're 45.
Tom Brady is an anomaly.
He's a mechanic.
And you know what? He still may fall off the map. I'm not ready to, say that he's going to play to 45. He's playing fantastic right now, but he's not going to play till he's 45. So.
I think mentally Tom Brady is got that mentality going. He's physically ready to play every game.
I agree with you. He's still in his
mentally is.
You know what his issue
fresh.
is? His line won't let him play until he's 45. Unless they start spending some serious cash on that line. He's not playing until he's 45. Let's move on. Bills and Chargers. Kind of another dud. We're going to get a new quarterback. Tyrod's on the bench. Nathan Peterman's in this week. Chargers are laying 4.5. Chargers burned me enough in the last 3 years. I'm going to take the Bills on the road.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the Bills as well. In that game, don't know why Chargers are that much of a favorite in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, especially since Phillip Rivers may not be playing. So, I mean, if Phillip Rivers is not playing and the line's still sitting there at 4.5, I don't see that being able to be covered. I don't even know who their backup quarterback is.
I'm not sure either.
The last one I remember was Billy Volek. I mean, that's the longevity of Phillip Rivers. I don't remember the last. The last backup quarterback I remember, other than Billy Volek, was Phillip Rivers when he backed up Drew Brees. So I mean, Phillip Rivers has been there a long time. This is a weird. I got to think with the 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
Phillip's going to play, but I still like Buffalo with their run game and their defense to just take care of business, and I think they win outright on the road. So.
Yeah, I would lean if I bet it. I would probably take the Bills money line.
Yeah, I'm
based on the value.
I'm taking my money to the window. I'm probably laying the 4.5. I'm probably taking the 4.5, and I'm probably taking the money line for a little sprinkle.
Sprinkle it, yeah.
Yeah, a little sprinkle. So that's one of my picks this week.
Yeah, total on this game is 46.5.
Nah, not touching that.
No,
I'd probably play the under if I had to.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the same.
Bengals and Broncos, two teams that had expectations this year that have not clearly lived up to them. But Broncos are spiraling out of control. They're talking about, is Vance Joseph the right guy for the job? They're talking about, automatically just, nixing that experiment. They have no quarterback. Brock Osweiler has not been anything they thought he would be. But they are playing another team that's not very good either.
Yeah.
And I think at this spot, I don't know. I struggled with this one when I was looking at my research. I feel like Denver's going to win this game by a point. So I'm taking Cincinnati, and I'm taking the 2.5.
Kind of leaning towards the same. I'm feeling within a field goal kind of game. I'm leaning also towards the Bengals in the spot plus 2.5.
Yeah, I think Denver gets off the schneid, but I think they do it with like a McManus field goal at the end, or they cover a 2-point conversion to give them a 2-point win or something. I think it's a screwy game, and I'm going to go to the window with Cincinnati.
So total for this game at 39.5. What's your thoughts on the total?
I think it's going to go over, but I can see it being in the sense of like a 24-23 game, something like that, 27-26.
Yeah.
28-27, something like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking of a 21 kind of 20 kind of game.
Yeah.
Just barely scooting over the over.
Yeah. Yeah, something just enough to get by. I think that total's pretty right on, Two good defenses,
Yeah.
They want you to kind of jump on the under. I think they give up enough to squeak by, so.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards over in that spot. Maybe there'll be like a late second penalty and untimed score or something.
Yeah, that'll be it. All right, so we got the Buccaneers and we got the Buccaneers and we got the Dolphins. Jameis is probably not going to play again, so we're going to see the Ryan Fitzpatrick experiment against the Jay Cutler experiment. Two names I didn't think I'd hear this season when I was sitting watching football in August. So this matchup was supposed to happen in Week 1. Obviously, Hurricane Irma had other plans, so now they play it in Week 11. Both teams, you can tell that not having a bye week is just killing these teams.
Yeah.
Not having a real bye week.
Yeah, it's going to be the mentality of the rest of the season. It's going to cripple them and just kind of destroy these teams even worse than what they are. Bucks kind of a big disappointment this year. I thought they'd make at least a wild card run.
Yeah, I think everybody did. I mean, and they still, They win. What are they? 3-6 right now. 3-5. They win eight more. They're what 11-5.
Yeah.
What's their record? 3-5. 3-6.
Record I think is 3-6 right now.
So they're 3-6. They win 7 more. They go 10-6. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I highly doubt that'll happen.
Yeah.
If Jameis can take these couple of weeks, get his head right, and Ryan Fitzpatrick can, I'm going to the window with Tampa Bay in this one because it's a pick'em from what I read.
Yeah, you got the same on my sheet.
Tampa Bay is not traveling far. Obviously, they're traveling in-state. And like I said, the home team's usually a 3-point advantage, which is telling me that Tampa Bay is actually 3 points better than Miami on a neutral site. So in the sense of not having too big of a crowd at Hard Rock because Dolphins fans just don't show up, I don't think they're going to have a home field advantage situation. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay and just take them, obviously, just to win.
Yeah, and I see 40.5 for the total. I'm leaning more towards the under in this kind of game.
Not even looking at it, not even touching it.
Yeah.
They could go on explosions and have a 38-31 game, or they could win the game 6-3. I mean, it's these two teams are weird, but I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay in this spot. So
yeah, I'm leaning towards the same. It's like a Bermuda Triangle kind of game.
Yeah, I'm not going. I'm not going. I might go to the window with that one. That might be a desperation bet. We'll see how Saturday goes. So we got what's the next game on the schedule? We got the Mexico City game. We got the Patriots at the Raiders. Even though it's at the Raiders, it's located in Mexico City. A home game for the Raiders.
Yeah, a lot of big fan base for the Raiders in Mexico City, from what I hear.
Yeah, that's what I hear too. Patriots are laying 7.5 on the quote-unquote road. No Chris Hogan probably in the game. Danny Amendola, Martellus Bennett are questionable at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Major injuries for the Raiders include a lot of their offensive line seems to be questionable or probable to play.
Yeah.
So I'm going to imagine that everybody on this suits up, except with the exception of Chris Hogan, because he's already, I believe, been ruled out for this game.
I believe so as well. Yeah.
So the New England lands 7.5 at Oakland. I am going to take the points, go to the window, and take the Raiders.
I'm leaning towards the other way. I think the Raiders are just that awful right now. I think Tom Brady, his defense is starting to click, as well as him on offense. I see them winning by a touchdown and a field goal. I'm leaning more towards like a 23 kind of 13 kind of game.
See, these are the games I hate because I can see the Patriots losing this game. I know that sounds crazy, but I can see a spot where they go to a place they're not familiar with. It's essentially still a home game for the other team.
Mm-hmm.
It's in an altitude that's crazy that they're not used to. Oakland is. They've already played 2 games in Mexico City, including last year against Houston.
And plus, they play against the Broncos twice a year, one being on the road. They got that out, too.
Yeah. I mean, the Patriots played them this year, too. The Patriots seem to have played the Broncos in Denver a lot, but it just seems like everything sets up for the Raiders. The Patriots had a big win. I know if anybody can keep them on the right ship, it's Bill Belichick. I think the Patriots win by 3 to 5 points.
Yeah, total on this game, the highest of the week is 53. I'm not going to touch that one, but...
You said the highest was the New Orleans one.
I was wrong.
Oh, jeez, bro. Come on.
I know. Slacking.
Why do I pay this research staff if they're not going to do their job? Maybe another beer.
Yeah. It's always beer 30.
So this one's 53.5. I am going to lay the under in this one.
Yeah, I like the under as well.
I'm going to lay it in the 27-21 range. So that I think 27-21 New England wins, or 27, 24-21, 27-24, something like that. Within 3 to 5. I'm going to say 3 to 7. I'm going to say that hook might hurt. So yeah, somewhere in that range, I think, but not over the total. Sunday night game obviously doesn't have the same luster as it did 2 weeks ago with no Ezekiel Elliott. We got the Eagles and we got Dallas. Games in Jerry World. Philly's laying 4.
Yeah, I like Philly in this matchup. According to my injury report, Philly's very healthy. People that are thinking that they're limited in practice, they're actually taking all the snaps in practice. And according to my research with the Cowboys, a lot of questionables and probables. Yeah, Dez is not participating in practice. Heath the same. Bailey, even their kicker, is...
Sean Lee will be out.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be out for a couple of weeks. Tyron Smith, the big left tackle, who's supposed to be protecting Dak, is having some issues. Dan Bailey, I believe, is not playing again. Everything sets up, coming up roses for the Eagles this year, and I think they win this game. I'm going to take Dallas. I'm going to take Dallas to lose by a field goal and cover the 4.
I think the Eagles win by a touchdown. I think it will be a little higher scoring. I think both defenses will get lit up a little. Total is 48. I like the over in that spot. I'm leaning more like a 29, kind of 22 kind of game.
Okay, yeah, I think I like the over as well. I think it's a 33-30 kind of game.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Atlanta and Seattle. I think this is the game of the week of the entire slate. I think Atlanta's riding high after crushing Dallas, despite the Ezekiel Elliott absence. Seattle's an interesting team. They have the weapons. The line's a little shaky. Dwayne Brown went down. We'll see if he plays. But you got Russell Wilson and you got Matt Ryan, two of the better quarterbacks in this league. Past expectations and references would tell me that Seattle should win this game. I just don't know if the 12th man's enough to get them over the top. I'm going to take Atlanta to win the game outright in upset.
I'm thinking the same. Atlanta needs a desperate win in this situation and stay in the wild card hunt. They're 5-4. Seattle's 6-3. Seattle can kind of almost afford a loss, even though they got a tough remaining schedule. It'll be one hell of a game. Total is 45. What are your thoughts?
That's a weird one. I wouldn't go to the window with the total, but I'll take the under in that one.
I like the over in that kind of spot. I'm guessing more like a 27-21 kind of game with the Falcons winning.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the window with an Atlanta money line because I think I'm still going to get probably plus 160 to 180 because I think that'll be bet up to 3 by the time game comes around.
Yeah.
So I think I can get somewhere in the neighborhood of 160. If I can get 160, 180, I'm going to the window with Atlanta on the money line.
Yeah, if it's closer to 140, I'd still bet it, but probably not as good as a value, obviously. Yeah, I lean towards that. And I might sprinkle a little on the over.
Yeah, right now William Hill has it at 135. Right. So if it gets bet up to 3.5, and it gets up to the 160 range, I'll tap it. I might still put a little bit on it, but if it doesn't get up that high, I'll pay the 40 cents and get the points.
Yeah.
I always feel a little more comfortable just taking the points. I know paying the juice is tough, but sometimes paying the juice is okay.
Yeah. Can't go wrong with getting points when they even went outright. So.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Buys this week, Carolina and Indianapolis. Carolina's getting a bye at a really good time because they're playing hot, and now they're going to get healthy. Jonathan Stewart's going to get healthy. Cam's going to get healthy. Curtis Samuel's going to get healthy. I believe they're getting Greg Olsen back after the bye week. It could be maybe a week after that, but you heard Cam. He says he gets his boy back. It's over for everybody. So yeah. I think that they're getting a bye at the good spot. Indianapolis, whatever, they're out of it. They're done at this point. So, that's an irrelevant bye at this point. But Carolina's getting a bye at a good spot for them. So I kind of see and if they can get a bye in this spot and get a New Orleans loss, and they're both 7-3, New Orleans has the tiebreaker. But if they're both 7-3, then they got a fresh set of legs.
Yeah,
going into the last home stretch of the season.
That would be a major one if the Saints lose on their bye week.
Yeah, so that would be a good bye week for Carolina. Best they could probably ask: get healthy and get back into basically a tie for first. So week 11 and week 12 in the NCAA. Week 12 in the NCAA, week 11 in the NFL schedule. Not a lot going on in the college football rankings, so that gives us more money to torch off on Sunday because I don't think I'm going to do too much. I don't think I'm going to do too much on Saturday, so we'll see what happens. So, I mean, I'm still going to watch the games. I still think there could be a shakeup. I think it more than likely be status quo for the NCAA. And as always, the NFL is just bonkers every Sunday. So
yeah,
I've given up trying to not be shocked at things that happen at this point. So
yeah, new week anybody can win, and especially the underdogs. Like you look back at week 2 and see how many underdogs won in that week, and even one outright. So
yeah. So all right. Well, I know I'll be watching. I know you'll be watching. So hopefully you all out there will be watching. Take our picks to the window, and we can all cash together. That would be awesome. You can catch us on any of our social media outlets. We have Facebook.com/Vegas Squares. We have Twitter @Vegas Squares. We have Instagram, Vegas Squares Podcast. We are on SoundCloud where you can catch our podcast. You just type in the search bar Vegas Squares Podcast. You do the same in the iTunes. Type in Vegas Squares Podcast. And we also, if you're looking for other sports, other little tidbits of sports information, we do have our Vegas snippets that come out periodically through the week. We talked about Shipachyov. Who else we talked about? Shipachyov from the Knights. We talked about Carlos Beltran retiring.
Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
We talked about
bowling. We talk about bowling, so we get it all. We cover all the bases. So
it's
if
like ESPN the Ocho over here.
So if you're not, if you're on the go, don't have time to listen to the big podcast, just check out the snippets. They are on the site, which is www.vegassquares.com. where you can also catch these podcasts. So there's many opportunities to get in touch with us, get a hold of us, be a part of this experience. So don't hesitate to, jump on board because we are definitely a grassroots effort that's starting up and we're having fun with it and we'd like everybody to be involved. So we're going to sign off at this point and so we can actually get prepped for the weekend. Hey, for Anthony and Aaron, this has been another edition of the Vegas Squares Podcast. We thank you for tuning in and have a great day.